Hello, we are back for our next Sunday of ordinary time, and yet keep that Christmas messianic promise of Christ that I spoke about in your mind. Hope you don't mind me having a cup of tea. You know, my dear friends, today in our reflection, the beauty is the first reading, the second reading, and the gospel. All three work on the power and the beauty of God's call. Now, very often we find that there is a call and there is a mission, and sometimes we are called to mission, called to proclaim the gospel. We would see there is a space between God is calling us and then we have to go on mission. But somehow in the call, or in the first reading today, Prophet Isaiah, a prophet, one of the biggest prophets of the Old Testament, he works for 40 years. It's a 40-year tenure. It's a 40-year ministry of Prophet Isaiah, what we call the first Isaiah, whose scope is in the book of Isaiah, chapters 1 to 39. The other chapters we will talk when we come to that particular point of time, is basically during an historical context, a concrete historical context of how Isaiah is down south in Judah, Judah down. Above Judah and Jerusalem is Samaria, Galilee above, and then you have Syria on the right, and all the other nations are above. Now, what we call the southern kingdom and northern kingdom. Southern kingdom is Judah and Jerusalem. Northern kingdom is Israel with capital of Samaria. So they are the northern kingdom. From the southern kingdom, Isaiah has got a king, Uzziah, Ahaz, and all the other kings that he serves under. And northern kingdom is by other set of kings. And the pressure for Isaiah's king in the southern kingdom is to join Samaria and the northern kingdom. They want to join with the Syrians, what we call the Syro-Ephraim collusion. They want to pressurize Jerusalem to support them in fighting the Assyrians. Assyrians are a very huge power at that time. We are talking about late 8th century. The time would be around, say, 740, 738. We come down from BC, you see. So during this time, they are pressurizing the southern king to join them in fighting Assyria. Now, Isaiah the prophet is counseling the kings here and saying, do not take sides right now. If they're doing it, we warned them before, they wouldn't listen to us, you don't take sides. That's very important. Because why? Because that's not the time. Theologically, that's not a time for God want them to join. But anyway, they wouldn't listen. The northern kingdom combines with Syria, and they take on the mighty Assyrian Empire on the other side. And as they do, the Assyrian kings, Sennacherib and others, would come and plumage the northern kingdom. And the northern kingdom falls by 721. By 701, what the time we are talking about now, whole thing is done. The northern kingdom is swept away. What is called the Assyrian deportation, or the exile of the Assyrian exile. Now, this strategy of Isaiah gives the southern kingdom another 100 years more to survive by its. And after 100 years, it goes on exile. And that is what we'll see in the other parts of Isaiah, chapter 40 to 55 and 56 to 66. That all will come later. And therefore, the point I'm trying to say is, in this week's gospel reading, this week's first reading, It is the mission of Isaiah. Isaiah is called to be on mission. In other words, mission itself is the call. Mission itself is the call. Because the call to come back to God in repentance was already there in his life. But there's a mission, and to this mission he is called in the heavenly courts of God. And he says, God, I'm an unclean spirit, unclean man, unclean tongues with unclean people. He's from the people, talking about for the people, but God purifies him and uses him. His mission itself is the call. And therefore, in the gospel reading, the mission to be a fisher of men for Peter itself is the call. The mission itself becomes the call for Peter. And therefore, for Jesus calling Peter, the way Luke brings it out is basically that what is the risen Lord coming in his midst? It is the risen Lord who is calling Peter. The Lord who's risen, that's why it's very parallel to John's Gospel, chapter 21, and both are very similar in their narration. So Luke says Jesus is calling Peter not just as one on the earthly time, but even before, as he was born and lived in his earthly time, he was coming out as a resurrected Lord, giving you and I the hold that God is always calling us. But our mission itself is the call. And that is where our second reading of Paul gives us that mission of proclamation that was handed on from one generation to another generation. And that is the exact definition of what a tradition is. A tradition is what I receive, I hand it on. What did he receive and handed on? Is the heart of Christian teaching, the soul of Christian teaching, the heart and soul of Christian creed. Christ died, Christ risen, Christ will come again, and I need to be on mission for him. Especially Christ died, Christ risen, he will come again, and much more. It is this Christ for Paul who appeared to him in flesh and blood, so to speak, and called him to be an apostle. So mission itself is the call. Isaiah in a historical situation, concrete historical situation. Luke invites us to join Jesus as a resurrected Lord, but the heart and soul of to believe in the mission to proclaim Christ died, Christ rose, Christ will come again, and he appears to us. Have a wonderful liturgy this weekend. It's important you celebrate and listen to my brother priest or brother deacon talking to you on these terms. Blessings.